Welcome back to the deep dive. I want you to visualize something with me for a second.
Okay.
It's a physical sensation we've all had.
Yeah.
Imagine you're standing in your bathroom, you're late for work, and you're holding a brand new tube of toothpaste. You squeeze it, just a little too hard,
I know where this is going.
and this huge, minty glob just falls right into the sink. Now, here's the challenge. Try to put that toothpaste back into the tube.
Good luck with that. It is messy, it gets under your fingernails, and frankly, it is impossible.
Exactly. It's permanent.
Okay.
And that messy sink is, well, it's the perfect analogy for what we're unpacking today.
Right.
We aren't talking about dental hygiene. We're looking at words. The source material today is focused on a very specific, very ruthless law of power. Law 4, always say less than necessary.
And the core idea is that once words leave your mouth, they are just like that toothpaste.
You cannot stuff them back in.
And in the historical cases we're looking at, that inability to retract your words isn't just, an embarrassing moment at a party. It's a matter of reputation, political power, and as we will see in one particularly chilling story, it's literally life and death.
It feels so counterintuitive, though. We live in this economy of attention. We reward the loud.
Mm-hmm.
You look at social media, cable news, even corporate meetings. It feels like the person talking the most, the one sucking up all the oxygen in the room.
That's the one in charge.
Yeah. But our sources today are flipping that completely on its head. They argue that true authority, the kind that actually commands respect and not just attention, it comes from silence.
It's the difference between being heard and being listened to. The core wisdom here is that the more you say, the more common you appear. You just dilute your own power.
A scarcity principle, basically.
Exactly. Even if you're saying something brilliant, if you ramble, if you over-explain, you start to look less in control. But if you say something, vague or brief, it suddenly seems profound.
People fill in the blanks themselves.
They assume there's more depth there than there might actually be.
There's a risk factor that the sources mentioned that I found really compelling. It's just a simple probability game. The more words you speak, the higher the chance you're going to say something stupid.
It's a statistical certainty. The longer you talk, the higher the probability of a gaffe. And today we have a fascinating stack of historical evidence for this. We're not just theorizing.
No, we've got the receipts.
We're going to look at a Roman hero who destroyed his entire legacy because he couldn't stop bragging, a French king who terrified his court with 3 words.
And a Russian revolutionary who literally talked his way back into a noose.
That one is it's unbelievable.
That Russian story is haunting. I can't wait to get to that. But let's start with the Roman. This is our case study in failure. We're going back to the mid-5th century BC to talk about Gnaeus Marcius Coriolanus.
A legendary name in military history. If you lived in Rome at that time, he was basically a superhero.
A total legend. This guy had spent, 17 years on the battlefield, saved Rome from destruction multiple times. But here's the interesting dynamic the source highlights. Because he was always away fighting, nobody in Rome really knew him personally. He was just this mythic figure.
And that distance is crucial. The source material really emphasizes this concept of the aura. As long as Coriolanus was the silent warrior on the battlefield, he was perfect in the eyes of the people.
He was a blank canvas.
Exactly. They could project their hopes onto him. He was brave, stoic, invincible. But then, in 454 BC, he makes a pivot. He decides to enter politics.
He runs for consul.
The highest office in the Roman Republic, yeah.
Which feels like the natural next step, right?
Yeah.
You win the war, you run the country. And at first, he actually plays it right.
He does.
He goes out to make a speech to the common people, but he doesn't actually say much. He just opens his robe and shows them his scars.
Which is such a powerful, nonverbal move. It's law 4 in action almost accidentally. The scars did the talking.
They were the proof.
Visual proof of his sacrifice, his bravery. The source says the people were in tears. They were ready to elect him right then and there because his silence let him stay a hero. The scars were a symbol, and symbols are often stronger than arguments.
But then election day comes, and this is where the toothpaste moment happens. The point of no return.
Coriolanus shows up, but he's not alone. He's surrounded by this entourage of wealthy, pompous senators, and the vibe just shifts completely.
The context changes, and so does his behavior. He decides this is the moment to, speak his mind. He feels comfortable.
And he addresses the wealthy elite, not the people.
He starts bragging about his exploits, but in a way that feels arrogant, not heroic. He cracks inside jokes that only the rich nobles find funny.
Oh, inside jokes are the worst in a public setting.
Yeah.
It immediately creates an us versus them dynamic.
Exactly. And then it gets worse. He turns his attention to the common people and starts making accusations. He gets nasty. He calls his opponents names. It's like watching a beloved celebrity have a meltdown on a live stream.
And instantly, the magic is just gone. The source puts it beautifully. The legend evaporated the moment he opened his mouth. Suddenly, he wasn't a god of war anymore.
He was just a guy.
Just a boastful, irritating soldier. The people realized they didn't actually like him. They realized he held them in contempt.
So predictably, the election results come in.
And he loses,
That's...
spectacularly. But the real tragedy is that he doesn't learn the lesson.
He gets bitter.
He goes away, bitter and angry, just stewing. He comes back later when there's a massive famine in Rome. A shipment of grain arrives, and the Senate is debating how to distribute it. And Coriolanus stands up again, unable to keep quiet,
Oh, no.
and argues that they shouldn't give the grain to the people unless the people agree to give up their political representatives, the tribunes.
Wow. So he's using starvation as leverage to destroy democracy? That is bold.
It's suicidal. When the people riot, understandably, he tries to calm them down with another speech.
He thinks, I could talk my way out of this.
He starts slow, but his temper just flares up again. He becomes rude, insulting, arrogant. The crowd shouts him down. They refuse to listen to another word.
And that's the end of him.
Yep. He is condemned to death, which gets commuted to permanent banishment. He leaves Rome, never to return.
The lesson is just so stark.
If Coriolanus had just relied on his scars, on the visual, on the silence, he would have been ruler of Rome. His words didn't control the crowd. His words controlled him. They revealed his arrogance, and that destroyed the entire myth.
It's a classic case of self-sabotage. He talked himself out of a job and, well, out of his country. Okay, I want to pivot now to the inverse. Let's look at someone who mastered this law,
Who weaponized it.
who weaponized silence to an incredible degree. We're jumping forward to the 17th century, to the court of King Louis XIV of France.
The Sun King, the absolute master of strategic silence.
The atmosphere here is completely different. The French court of Versailles was a nest of vipers. Everyone was plotting, everyone was talking. It was just constant noise and gossip.
Right. And in that environment, information is the ultimate currency. People talk to figure out where everyone else stood, who was in favor, who was out.
But Louis understood something profound.
If he talked, he gave away his position. If he expressed an opinion, he became predictable. And if you are predictable, you can be manipulated.
So paint the picture for us. How did he handle these chatty, manipulative ministers who wanted to sway his policy?
The source describes a typical scene. Two ministers, representing opposing sides of some huge debate, would be chosen to present their case to the king.
They must have been terrified.
Oh, probably sweating. And they'd spend hours explaining the issue in excruciating detail, laying out all the options, the pros, the cons, trying to read his face for a single micro-expression.
We're looking for a tell, a hint of, yes, I agree with you. They want a roadmap to his brain.
Exactly. But Louis would listen in absolute silence, a stony face, no nodding, no frowning, just watching. And when they finally finished, breathless and anxious, Louis would say one famous phrase.
I shall see, je verrai.
And then he would simply walk away.
That is maddening. Imagine pitching your boss on a huge project, you pour your heart out, you give the presentation of your life, and all you get is, I shall see. And they just leave the room.
I'd be spiraling, I'd overanalyze it for weeks, and that was the point. It was psychological warfare.
So they'd hear nothing for weeks.
Nothing. They would only know his decision when he finally took action. The source notes that this wasn't just a quirk, it was a calibrated weapon. In his youth, Louis actually talked too much.
He was a bit like Coriolanus.
A bit. He learned the hard way that it caused problems, so he trained himself to be silent.
And the effect on the court was terror.
Absolute terror. Because when someone says nothing, you can't predict them, you can't manipulate them. If Louis had argued back, the ministers could have adjusted their arguments, they could have found a loophole. But against I shall see, there is no defense.
It made his words more valuable.
So much more. Saint-Simon, who wrote extensively about the court, noted that Louis's majesty was amplified by the scarcity of his words.
This connects to the psychology of why this works, which I think is really important for you to understand. It's not just about being mysterious. It exploits a glitch in the human brain.
We are interpretation machines. That is the phrase the text uses. We are hardwired to find patterns and meaning. When we're faced with silence, our brains panic a little.
Is he angry? Is he thinking? Is he bored?
The silence creates a void.
And our instinct, especially in Western culture, is to fill that void.
Precisely. And that is where the power shifts. If I stay silent, you will likely start talking to fill the gap. In negotiations, this is deadly.
You get nervous.
In your nervousness to fill the silence, you might reveal more than you intended. You might reveal a weakness or backtrack on a price, or just give me information I can use against you. Silence puts the other person on the defensive.
It's the uncomfortable elevator ride. You feel compelled to say something, anything. The notes mention Andy Warhol here, which I didn't expect, but it makes perfect sense.
It's a perfect modern example. Warhol learned early on that being pushy didn't work. So he adopted this persona of vague, monosyllabic answers. He turned himself into a Rorschach test.
Yeah, if you watch his old interviews, it's painful but fascinating. Do you like this?
Yes.
Why? It's nice. That's it.
And look what